What would happen if a pair of EFL podcasters graded every League Two team's 25-26 season? Let's find out. That's the premise of this show, not the Top 20 podcast, sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. We're going to go through League One in alphabetical order, and we're going to grade each team's season out of 10. We'd like to hear from you, whether you agree or disagree, in the comments below. George, kick us off.
Hi, Ali. Sure. My team that I'm going to mention first are Accrington Stanley, who I've given an 8, which might seem surprisingly high to some people for a team that finished, I think, was it 15th? I will get it up now. But this is what this is all about, where it's looking to cut through the normal means of judging a season just by looking at who got promoted and who got relegated, because there are teams that do well who just overachieve what you'd expect. And Accrington Stanley were one of the favourites for relegation this season. In John Doolan, they have a second full season of their manager, who has to be one of the least spoken about managers in world football. They recruit consistently from crazy pools such as Curzon, or first loans from PL2 teams, and do so incredibly effectively. They laugh in the face of people who judge teams and rank teams just purely by budget, because they seem to be able to find good League Two players who I assume cost very little. They were cleared relegation relatively early and unthreatened by it. They finished mid-table. They have overperformed their budget. They continue to kind of impress me, maybe because they're a League One club relatively recently. There is an assumption or a perception they should be better than they are, but I disagree with that. A good season, well done to Accrington Stanley. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, they reached 46 points on February the 17th, which must have been the kind of first target. They got almost no points after that, but we don't mind. We don't mind. They deserved an extended beach time. This is a team whose budget has been openly slashed over the last few years, who sold a player in Ben Woods to League One in the summer, sold a player in Ben Ward to League One in January, at a time where not many League Two clubs are selling guys for decent money, up levels. That's what they need to do. Found a nice balance of experienced guys with Rawson, Worley, Love, cheap developing guys, Devon Matthews, Isaac Sinclair. They nailed their loans with the goalkeeper in particular, Ollie Wright and Isaac Heath, and plenty of minutes for 2 under-21 club-owned youngsters in Henderson and O'Brien. They really, really smashed it from the point of view of one of the smallest budgets in the league. Definitely an underrated overachiever in League Two. We've also got a team called Barnet. I'm slightly torn between a 7 out of 10 and an 8 out of 10, because Barnet were a good team this season, and particularly in the last few months of the season, they really started cooking on gas. The gas was on previously, but they weren't cooking on it. And then they were, and they almost made the playoffs. And if the season had been 5 games longer, they probably would have. This is in the context of this being their first season back at the level, having won promotion from League Two. One thing to bear in mind is that League Two clubs consistently finish at least in the top 10 and quite often in the top 7. And so expectations for promoted National League teams are really absurdly high when you think about it. So Barnet finishing just outside the playoff places may seem like a par performance. I do think it's because some of those teams that have come up from the National League have done so with massive budgets, Wrexham, Chesterfield, etc. There's probably an assumption that Barnet have got lots of money, and I don't think that they do. I think this is legitimately a really good team built on not a huge budget. And so I think maybe it's more like an 8 based on all of that. A pretty good team all season. There are fans of some of the bigger clubs in the league who finished towards the top of the table that would say Barnet was their toughest game. And I think any finish in the top 7 or above for Barnet would have been a 9 out of 10 season. So the fact they finished just outside, I'm going to go with 8 out of 10. An impressive outfit and an impressive season.
Barrow for me. And I'm going to give them a 1.
Oh.
I think it's only just struck me that Barrow finished 24th out of 24. They finished beneath Harrogate and getting relegated. This was after 3 previous seasons where they finished 9th, 8th, and then 16th. 24th this time around, and they went through 77 managers over the course of the season, which, if you ask me, is too many managers. Being serious, it was Andy Wing into Neil McDonald, into Paul Gallagher, into Dino Mamria, into Sam Foley. I mean, that is horrendous. You've got 3 managers within that who managed 16 games between them. Like, just terrible, terrible processes throughout. They're in a much better position with Wingy at the helm. Relegated out of the Football League. Really poor squad building before the season started. A just terrible performance level for the whole of the second half of the season. And got what they deserved. So Barrow, sadly, out of the Football League, out of the EFL. I doubt any of their fans are listening anymore, apart from one who we know very well. Hi, Daniel. 24th from 24 is a 1 out of 10 for me.
Bristol Rovers. What do you do with a team like Bristol Rovers? You try and look at this objectively, and you call it a 4 out of 10 season. Lots was expected of Bristol Rovers, and they finished in the bottom half. So first and foremost, a poor league finish. It was a 1 out of 10 for about 70% of the season. They were battling relegation for 70% of the season. And then for the last 30% of the season, they got 6 more points than anyone else in the league, and they were miles the best team in it. They had spent a decent amount of money in the summer, and it wasn't money very well spent at that time. And they seem to be continuing to do so and backing Steve Evans, which I'm sure will put them among the favourites for promotion next season. But when you zoom out and try and forget the fact that they had the longest winning streak of any team in the EFL at the very end of the season, I think it's only a 4 out of 10.
Right. Bromley. This is easy. 2.
LDF. Yes.
10. 10 out of 10 for Bromley. Remarkable season. Unexpected by many. Seemingly not necessarily by Andy Woodman and his team, who said they were ambitious before the season started to win promotion, but they won the league. And they sat top of the table for so much of the season. Their promotion never really seemed in doubt. Their title win seemed in doubt, and going to final day, having been knocked off the top by MK Dons, but they won on final day. MK Dons didn't. They were crowned champions. An amazing step forwards. You know, we've seen National League teams come up and after a season of consolidation, then push on for promotion the season afterwards. But it's normally the money bags teams who won the league in the National League with over 100 points. That wasn't what Bromley was. So efficient from set pieces, a very obvious playing style that was so effective. It just couldn't really have gone better, frankly. One of the favourites for relegation before the season started won the league. And that has to be a 10 out of 10 for the Bromley boys.
From a 10 to a 9, Cambridge United went up with them automatically in third. I think this is a 9 because although Cambridge were good pretty much throughout the season, and that might obscure the fact that they weren't necessarily well fancied pre-season, and they should certainly be proud of the fact that in the last 4 seasons, 80% of the 16 sides that have come down from League 1 to League 2 have ended up finishing in the bottom half. Sometimes they battle relegation. Cambridge very much bucked that trend, and they had done so as the season started. It was clear that the relegation hangover was non-existent. So they had the aspirin before bed, plenty of water, and they dealt with it well. They nailed it, basically. They nailed it, the best defence in the whole EFL. Neil Harris understood what it was going to take and completely delivered, and in doing so gave about a dozen players they had the best season of their careers, rather than them being absolute nailed on automatic promotion squad talent wise. I've not explained myself very well, but we did a whole promotion special on Cambridge United where I did so a little bit better. A 9 out of 10 season for sure.
I've given Cheltenham Town an 8, which might seem toppy for a team who finished the season in 18th position. But because they started the season, I was really concerned about them before a ball was kicked. I thought they were going to get relegated. They started the season really badly. It was all really bad and everyone was miserable. And then they appointed Steve Cottrell, who's a manager that I've been pretty critical of in the past. I'm not sure he necessarily deserves some of the plaudits that he has received, but in this case, he absolutely does. He's been amazing there. It's been great to see, he's so popular after his amazing success there in the past. He came in through the doors and immediately completely turned around their fortunes and led them out of the relegation zone, away from relegation entirely, and they were safe early on. The football club feels in a much better place now. It feels like, Cottrell probably needs a club that he can basically control and be the main man at, and that's what he seems to have at Cheltenham Town now. And I imagine that any issues or concerns they've got out of falling out of the EFL altogether may be done for. So, yeah, I'm really impressed by what he's done, and I'm happy to kind of overlook the start of the season for what was just an incredible run after he came in.
So, Chesterfield, right, they finished 1 place higher than last season, and they got 9 points more than last season. They did improve to an extent, but they also lost in the playoff semi-finals with a pretty underwhelming display. They were among the favourites for the title, and familiar issues reared their head. Lack of consistency, not seeing games out as well as some of their promotion rivals. They had, as they have done pretty consistently, put together a fairly aggressive recruitment campaign of quality players such as Dylan Markanday, and then in January, Sammy Braybrook. And they finished, inside the playoff places, but that was where they were capped in the end. So not exactly a disaster season, but by their own expectations, and of course by our expectations of them, which were much higher than this, I think it's a 5 out of 10 season. I think it's just the average performance of Chesterfield 25-26.
Goodness. Colchester United, I wanted to give a 6, but I'll give them a 5. I think that Danny Cowley's done an amazing job there, taking them away from the bottom end of League Two with a very young team, integrated young players very well, Lisby and Bick and others. But there's no getting away from the fact they finished 12th. My perception of being a team that I think might be better than 12th is irrelevant in this conversation. So you've got to look at that as being an average season for a team who could push on and be better. And I'm pretty confident that under Cowley, given time, they will be better too. So Colchester United is a 5 out of 10.
Crawley Town, 2 out of 10. George, Crawley got 6 points more in League One last season than they did in League Two this season. They got relegated from League One in that campaign, and they didn't get relegated from League Two this season, but only because League Two has only 2 relegation spots. They won only 8 of their 46 league games. They took an approach that many may have taken if offered: get Scott Lindsay back, the manager that had won promotion before leaving, get the gang back and try and sign as many of his former players as possible. But you can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. They're all on different wages now. They're in different contexts. They've got a different idea of where they should be, what they should be doing. Egos are different. There's a lot of water under the bridge, etc., etc. It was pretty chaotic throughout. Colin Kazim Richards came in with 7 games to go. He won his first 2. Then he lost the next 2 and ended with 3 draws to stumble over the line. A 2 out of 10 season for Crawley Town.
Yeah, next up, Crewe Alexandra, and I'm going to give them a 6, which might seem a bit confusing given I gave Colchester a 5 a second ago and they were only split by a point and a place. But I think that's because we were worried about Crewe. I was worried about Crewe. You were worried about Crewe. I've been quite worried about Crewe for quite a long time, and they continue to be that person who keeps saying to you, like, stop asking me if I'm okay. Fine. Look, like, I'm 11th. Like, I'm chilled. Why do you keep thinking I'm angry? It was, I guess Crewe fans will be frustrated they weren't able to capitalise on a good position to force their way into the playoff picture. It was never really on the cards at any kind of later point of the season. But they're a team who have had an okay campaign, really, and maybe better than those of us who were worried about them thought they may do. So, not loads more to add to it. Kind of just better than average, in my view. And maybe that seems harsh. Sorry, seems wrong because they've had seasons relatively recently where they've been better than that. But that's how I see it. Fleetwood
Town, 4 out of 10. They got 1 point more than the season before, but they finished 1 point lower, 15th position. It was a patchy first half of the season where they just couldn't string together any results at any form. Pete Wilde left, Matt Lawler came in, and yes, there was a small improvement. He had 20 games. They still finished in the same position they were in when Wilde left, but Lawler's performances, the energy, the results was improved, I would say. But overall, this is a bit of a nothing season, really, from a club that's seems to be drifting somewhat. They obviously hit some heady heights, Fleetwood, in League One. They have obviously experienced a bit of an issue vis-a-vis their former owner being jailed, and drifting somewhat in the lower half of League Two at the moment. The one thing I'll say about Fleetwood, get this, first time since the 1920 season that someone hit double figures for goals in the league for Fleetwood Town. Mark Helms, 10. So that's cause for celebration. A 4 out of 10 season for Fleetwood.
Gillingham now, I've given them a 3. Started the season with a lot of promise. Mitigating circumstances with Gareth Ainsworth's time away from the dugout as he had heart surgery, and that seemed to either coincide or be a direct cause of a turnaround of fortunes. But it doesn't change the fact that he came back in the dugout and they were really poor in the second half of the season and ended up finishing 17th on 53 points. So quite a long way behind, for example, Fleetwood in 50th, who you just spoke about, and on the same points as Accrington Stanley. And I can guarantee you the budgets between these two teams, Gillingham's would dwarf Accrington Stanley's. Always so much positivity or ambition and money invested by Brad Gaddington into Gillingham, but for some reason they just cannot find a way to turn that into points or competitive edge in League Two. And this was another season that is just wasted really for Gillingham and their fans, following such a similar pattern of starting the season well and falling away. Not good enough really. So 3 out of 10.
Grimsby, more like Grinsby. Good season they had, a lot of fun. 8 out of 10. They improved on the season before by 10 points and 2 positions. Pretty impressive. Get this, George. Grimsby's goal difference improved by 30. By 30. They scored 13 goals more and they conceded 17 goals fewer. As one way of measuring the improvement of a team season to season, that is pretty astounding. They also beat Manchester United of Manchester. They did so playing pretty exciting football with quite a lot of exciting players. It was a good season. It wasn't as good as it might have been. They made the playoffs in 7th. There's an argument that based on, the quality of team that they were over the course of the season, they could have finished a bit higher, if not for a slow first half of the season. And they didn't play that well in the playoff semi-finals and ended up losing to Salford. So it's an 8 out of 10 season for Grimsby.
If it's an 8 out of 10 season for Grimsby, it's a 2 out of 10 season for Harrogate Town. Relegated, sadly. Amazing for everyone involved to have kept themselves in the EFL for as long as they did. But we should caveat that a little bit by saying that in January, the business was, they tried to have a go to stay in the division. And it came up short and they were relegated. Anyone who listened to the Championship pod might be wondering why I've given Oxford a 4 and Harrogate a 2. But there were only 2 relegation spots out of League Two. And, at the back end of the season when you saw Newport really battle to get out of it, they were unable to show that kind of form. I'm actually really gutted that we're losing Harrogate out of the EFL. They really showed what's possible for teams coming out of the National League in terms of being able to consolidate without having to spend loads of cash. But yes, I'm afraid they have gone, and it's a 2 out of 10 season, sadly, for them.
And you're also gutted because we never got round to going to a game.
Well, we can do still. They'll be playing in the National League.
We can do, but they'll be. Yeah, who cares about the National League? Ugh.
Whoa.
Milton Keynes. I mean, I think it's a 9 out of 10 season. They finished second and won automatic promotion. They had one of the biggest budgets ever in League Two. Everyone knows that. They had amazing players and they didn't even beat Bromley to the title. But I think, I do just want to make the point that even if you should finish first, second or third because you have the biggest budget, you've still got to actually do it via your own performance and your consistency and your quality. And lots of big budget teams don't actually do it. So I'm not going to mark MK down because they had a big budget. I think it's a 9 out of 10 season. I'd also like to bring up the fact that the year before, MK finished 19th in League Two with 52 points. This season they got 34 points more and their goal difference improved by 55 goals. So that is a pretty astounding change in culture and winning mentality that Paul Warne oversaw with his excellent squad. Only 4 teams in the last 5 seasons of League Two have got more points than MK's 86. 10 out of 10 would have been winning the league and getting more points, but they didn't. It's a 9 out of 10 season for MK.
Newport County have given a 7. And I'm wondering if that's even harsh. I mean, I know there's not actually much between Newport and Harrogate who've got a 2 and a 7, but crucially one has stayed up and one has gone down. And in Newport's case, they were written off as being, they were 9-4 with the bookies to get relegated from a league with 2 relegation spots. They were priced up as one of the worst teams we've ever seen in League Two. And it didn't start particularly well either. But the appointment of Christian Fuchs has proven to be a masterstroke. Amazing just turnaround of performances. The spirit showed. Bobby Camwer scoring worldies, missing penalties. I mean, it's just an incredible end to the season for Newport County to force their way out of the bottom two. And it may not get the plaudits of some other great escapes in football's recent past, but this was right up there in terms of what they managed to do, both in terms of where they were, in their most perilous moments in the season, but also what was expected of them too. So, yeah, Newport County, 7 out of 10.
Yeah, okay, Notts County, the other county in this league, is a 9 out of 10. They lost David McGoldrick last summer. They changed managers and brought in Martin Patterson. A lot of people were pretty down on Notts pre-season, despite a playoff finish last time out. Their league position improved, 1 position and 8 points better. And overall, they improved in one massive way. Their playoff performance was absolutely immaculate rather than completely insipid. And therefore, they won promotion. Of course, it's a 9 out of 10. They literally won promotion. They're back in League One after over a decade away. It's a 9 out of 10 season for Notts.
Oldham Athletic, one of these underrated overachievers in my mind. 8 out of 10 for me. I think given what other National League teams have done, it's easy to just think, they come out of the National League, this is what we expect. But they came through the playoffs. They did not have one of these big point tallies that we see some teams come up with, and yet they were able to bridge that gap quickly and, be still in the playoff mix towards the back end of the season. Mickey Mellon, it feels like, has kind of really got this team playing as a strong League Two side. We've seen with his Tranmere teams before that he's very canny when he can do this, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Oldham are a real force to be reckoned with next season. So I was impressed with them early in the campaign, and they're putting some good performances without getting the results that they deserved. Really, towards the end, they were looking like a strong League Two side, and it's a really, really good first season back in the league for Oldham Athletic. 8 out of 10.
I actually had some old ham for lunch today, thinking about it, and you cannot say that about many EFL teams. Salford City, 7 out of 10. Would have been a 9 if they'd won on final day and gone up automatically. Would have been a 9, probably, if they'd won the playoff final and achieved that promotion they've been striving for. But the manner of the defeat in the playoff final, plus that period where they lost 6 games out of 8 very randomly, and then the fact that they do have a ridiculous squad for this level, and that comes with very high wages and high expectations. So I don't think 4th and a playoff final defeat, a playoff final thumping, can be more than a 7 out of 10 for Salford. And that's probably their highest out of 10 score of the last 3 or 4 seasons. So take the positives.
Maybe. Shrewsbury Town, 4 out of 10. Looked like it could have been a 1 or a 2 early in the season. Absolutely terrible coming down from League 1 into League 2. Relegation threatened. As much as I love and will fight to the death for Michael Appleton, it's hard. There's no getting away from how difficult he was finding it as Shrewsbury Town boss. And the appointment of Gavin Cowan and his mates, Dave Edwards, as assistant manager, proved to be enough to really be the bolt into Shrewsbury Town to get them out of the relegation picture. Once they got out of it, things kind of turned again. It's a 4 out of 10 because they managed to kind of get to safety. But realistically, it's a season to forget. I'd also say the reason it's not any lower than that is because I going into the season, I was concerned about Shrewsbury. I didn't think they looked like a team that were set up to have success. They looked like a team that were going to be relegation threatened, and that was even with a manager that I really like. So I would say there's a modicum of success in terms of just staying up, but yeah, a pretty poor season all round.
Gavin Cowan and Shrewsbury Town showing that sometimes it is worth going into business with your friend. Isn't that right, George?
Yes, mate.
Swindon. Now, this is one of those gradings where recency bias makes it tough, because at Swindon Town, there's doom and there's gloom, and that's both on the pitch, where they tumbled all the way from an automatic promotion battle to a 9th place finish, and off the pitch, where bad energy continues to envelop the place. And just today, I'm seeing redundancies being reported, and the staff at the club obviously impacted by that, and the fans reacting with concern about the direction of travel of the football club. But they also had a pretty good season by their recent standards. They improved by 13 points in 3 places. They're well above the 19th place where they finished in 23-24, or the bottom 8 where they were flirting before Ian Holloway came in. I think it has to be overall on the pitch for the team a 7 out of 10 season. There was some great periods, some great performances, some good successes. Obviously, it finished in a bad way, in a way that has me worried looking forwards, but we're not looking forwards here. We're looking backwards. A 7 out of 10 season overall for Swindon.
Yeah, Tranmere Rovers, I'm going to give a 2. A really poor season. They finished 2 points clear of the bottom 2 in the end. Just a ridiculous run of form under Andy Crosby, where they went from being a team kind of on the edge of the playoffs to one that was hurtling down the table at a rate of knots. Pete Wild came in, who I kind of assumed would get a tune out of them. 1 win in 10 for him, and 3 draws and 6 defeats. Wasn't great, but it was enough just about to get them over the line. Just a really, really poor season. And, had that finish line been extended another couple of games, then, they may have actually fallen into the bottom 2. So bad season for Tranmere. I see, a club who are always going to be ambitious at this level, who are suddenly worrying about their EFL status.
And Walsall, difficult, lots to consider here. I've given them a 3 out of 10 season. It felt messy, it felt tetchy, it felt angry. Frankly, it felt like a bit of a kind of nothing season for Walsall. Our expectations were pretty high. You thought they'd go again and challenge. I thought they might be just outside the playoffs. The reality was 13th. They finished 9 points, nine places lower, and 12 points back from the year before under Matt Sadler, and he was sacked halfway through the campaign. They are overall back to being Walsall in League Two. I think we can say that. That's 7 seasons they've had down here now, and there's one pretty clear outlier in terms of finishing position: 12th, 19th, 16th, 16th, 11th, 4th, 13th. This season's their second highest points total, joint highest points total in the last 7 seasons. But it felt like the fever dream of the first half of last season has turned into a bit of a nightmare. And in raising everyone's expectations by achieving on the pitch for the first time in ages, it's meant that reverting to type has been, well, it just seems completely unacceptable and made everyone very angry. So 3 out of 10 season, I think, for Walsall. Messy, included a managerial sacking and then a caretaker for an extended period of time to finish off the season. They're back to square one, and Lee Grant will be taking them forward in 26-27, with most of a new team as well needing to be recruited. Looking forward to seeing how they approach this summer. Walsall, 3 out of 10. So we have graded every team in League Two season, and we want to know what you think. We may have some different perspectives on life and on
That's okay.
Football club gradings. Hey, that's fine.
It's fine.
Boring if we didn't.
Don't come at me.
But do comment.
Yes.
And subscribe. And if you're listening
Just
on
nice,
Spotify,
nice comments.
Drop us a 5-star rating. We're off to the World Cup with the England pod. That is our other podcast. And it's going pretty well ahead of the tournament. And I think you might enjoy it if you're English and you like football. So make sure you follow the England pod on podcast platforms, YouTube and social media. And we're going to have quite a lot of fun this summer. And it'd be good to have you along for the ride. Cheers. Go well.